This is The Artistry. I am your host, Lonita Cook. Today we are speaking with Executive Director of Accessible Arts, Emily Vowiell. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, Accessible Arts is an affiliate of VSA, which is formerly Very Special Arts, correct?
Correct.
And they are the state organization for arts and disabilities.
Yes.
Right. And Accessible Arts is devoted to providing arts access for all people.
Yes, Accessible Arts VSA Kansas provides arts programming for children with disabilities in the state of Kansas and the greater Kansas City area. Our mission is to unlock the arts for children with disabilities and to advocate access to the arts. Some of the programming that we do, aside from direct programming to children with disabilities, is to provide professional development to teachers and community organizations, provide cultural access, which is supporting ASL interpreters, audio description, supporting access to arts programming, and we also support public awareness as well.
Wow.
Yes.
That is a lot of things.
Yes, we try to do a little bit of everything, or a lot of everything.
So is it located in one place, or do you have a lot of satellite locations?
Our main office is located on the Kansas State School for the Blind, but we do programming throughout the entire state of Kansas. We have right now, we also have recently opened up a clay studio in Kansas City, Kansas, which we will talk about a little later,
yes,
I'm sure. We are doing some programming in Lawrence and Topeka right now, but again, with our professional development, we go to several college campuses, so we are a little bit everywhere.
Okay, and so Accessible Arts is kind of the umbrella organization for some sub-programs.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
That is part of our cultural access and our public awareness as well.
And you are the executive director over Accessible
Very
Arts.
busy.
What are your responsibilities?
Well, everything from daily operations, general management, fundraising, marketing, grant writing, grant reporting, community relations, marketing. I have a fantastic business manager who works underneath me that helps me with all my accounting policies and procedures and financial policy and procedures, and then also a very strong board. But we're a very small organization doing very large things, and we like to let the community know that we spend our budget mainly on programming for the children and not a large staff. We try to keep our administrative costs low and put it all back into the programming for the children.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. So what experience or background or educational background do you have that's prepared you for this position?
Well, I've worked for over 15 years in the non-for-profit sector. I've worked for very large organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, American Cancer Society, YMCA, Head Start. I started out working in juvenile treatment facilities, group homes for adults with disabilities, and I've also been a disability advocate for over 10 years. So I've moved myself up through the non-for-profit sector to working up to the executive director position, started off in grant writing and program development and administration. So, and it's always been to further development of the non-profit administration. So that's been my experience.
It's been your experience?
Yes, went from direct care up to this role. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So let me ask, is Accessible Arts simply about providing access to the arts, or is it also about raising awareness, visibility for the disabled community?
We do, our strong set is providing programming for the children with disabilities. We have very strong artists who are involved, volunteers who are involved, but we do like to raise awareness for the disability community, and that is to let people know that there are artists and our children who have disabilities, and we want people to know that this is a very strong part of their lives, and we do want the people in the community to know that come out and support the children. They are artists. This is a way for them to express themselves, to have a sense of independence and a sense of craft. And so we do want to raise that awareness and let them know that this is very much a large part of their life. And so we do want to raise awareness to these programmings.
Well, is it reasonable to say or true to say that the disabled community is extremely underserved?
I wouldn't say that it is underserved, there are a lot of very strong programs out in the community. There's a lot of strong day services out in the community. I would say that it's underserved right now due to some funding cuts. Our education programs have been cut, and of course our arts programming have been cut.
And that's kind of around the board.
That is around the board, but it's underserved in the fact that there's not a lot of training for people who work with people with disabilities. It's not something that's out there and promoted a lot, so that is an underserved situation for people.
So what you're saying is what needs to happen is the personnel needs to be there.
We have found that is very much a situation. A lot of the paraprofessionals that are working in inclusive classrooms in our schools don't have a lot of training and a lot of support. So that doesn't help our students in the classrooms.
So a part of what Accessible Arts does is to go into these classrooms and say, hey, we have this training, this education that we can give to the teachers.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, so we like to support that. There aren't a lot of arts that are including people of all ages and abilities into their services, and that is really what we're trying to promote and to advocate for out in the community, because again, it's a way for people to be creative and stimulate activity and social interaction.
Would the organization or the cause be benefited if the social attitude were to change about the disabled community? I mean, what do we need to understand?
I think what needs to be understood is that in the disability community, inclusion is very much desired, which inclusion means everybody. It means all.
But what does it look like? Does that mean there are disabled children in the classroom?
It means all, no exceptions. Everybody, all the time. All ages, all abilities.
It's not segregated.
It's not segregated. That there is a need for that. That there is a time and place for people with disabilities to be together and learning and gaining skills. But there is a time and a place also for inclusion, where everybody has that social interaction and there's people learning from each other and having mentorship with each other, and also gaining that understanding that, again, inclusion, everybody is together, all means all the time, no exceptions, all ages and abilities, and that social interaction is very much important, and from that you get public awareness, and that you can get, we want to support you, and that fear factor goes away as well.
And the following generations kind of birth people who are more aware and who can be, if they are educators, because they were in classrooms as children themselves. Is that what we're looking toward, the future generations with this as well?
Future generations as well. And the other thing that's going on is that with aging generations and with this generation having more and more, for example, children with autism, there isn't anybody that hasn't been affected with someone with a disability, with their family and friends. And you know, we want to, with an inclusion process or programming, invite the families and the siblings and the grandparents and let them know that these programs, everybody can be involved.
Right.
And we have the adaptations and the strategies in these programmings that we can work with everybody in the classroom.
And we're talking about the current generation, the future generations. It just occurred to me, how has computer technology affected these accessible arts programs?
We haven't dabbled a lot into that, and that's something that, of course, we can talk about. We're always looking for volunteers and volunteer artists that can bring that new technology age into our world. I have worked with several children who are blind who have fantastic technological assistance, and I was talking to one young man who was receiving emails through Braille on his computer.
Wow.
And I had to razz him a little bit, because as I was talking to me, I'm like, are you reading your emails? Yeah. You know, so it was very typical of a young man who might have been ignoring you reading your email or a text.
Right.
But he was receiving it through Braille. So there is a lot of technology out there, and we're hoping to maybe bring in some graphic design or anything. But I do want to mention that I did have a graphic design intern with us for several months who was high-functioning Asperger's, who did receive an associate degree from Penn Valley, and he was phenomenal and a true asset to accessible arts. And that just shows that there's degrees to be received and internships and then going into the workforce. And that was through an arts programming, fantastic graphic design, and we do want to promote that with our students as well, that through the arts you can receive degrees and
have a professional
and have a career in the arts.
That was one thing that I wanted to ask, because I assume that there are still a lot of prejudiced people out there who are ignorant, and myself included, of what's possible, the possibilities.
Very much.
And having a professional career sounds, at first, like, really? That's possible?
Yes.
But you see that every day.
We do. We do. We have, for example, our clay studio, we were hoping to show that there's craftsmanship that can come from working in clay, and that you can have a career in that. Again, the young man who I was working with in graphic design, very much a possibility. There are careers out there for young people with disabilities who are very prolific. They become very prolific in the arts. We have students who are wanting to work in bands because they're so their music skills are so strong, and they get gigs.
Wow.
So it's very much
an
avenue for children with disabilities. They find their strengths and their abilities through the arts, and we find that in the education as well. If it's not writing a paper because that's not their strength, they're able to draw, they're able to act it out, they're able to write a poem, and that is their way in the education system as well, doing integrated arts. And I think they're able to find that in their careers as well.
The expectations of these programs are no different than the expectations of any other arts program for any other member of our community.
It's not. They can gain the same things out of these classes. They're gaining creativity and imagination skills. They're gaining sensory awareness. It helps to settle excitement. Someone who's maybe agitated or too much energy in the classroom, that's any kid.
Right.
It helps to promote the craftsmanship. It helps to build motor development. It helps to support memory. These are all things that any child gains from the arts. But also with the arts, students with special needs are able to work at their own pace and use their own abilities, and they're able to see success in that. But that's any child as well.
Exactly.
But using the arts, you find that children with disabilities or special needs really are able to find their success in that because of maybe a unique thought process.
Okay. Well, Emily, we're going to go ahead and take a break.
Okay, great.
And we will be right back. We're speaking with Emily Vowiell, Executive Director of Accessible Arts. We'll be right back.
Alzheimer's disease, if left unchecked, will strike millions, including baby boomers, their children, and grandchildren in the coming years. As a scientist studying Alzheimer's disease for the American Health Assistance Foundation, I'm well aware that continued research is our only hope for finding a cure. Call 1-800-437-2423 or visit ahaf.org for free publications on Alzheimer's. Learn what you can do to help battle this deadly disease.
And we're back. This is The Artistry. We are speaking with Emily Vowiell, Executive Director of Accessible Arts. When we left, we were talking about what is plausible and possible for a participant of the Accessible Arts program. Now, I wanted to read a quote to you. Now, the options include they can learn visual arts, music, theater, dance, and creative movement.
Yes.
And Accessible Arts promises that through their explorations, they will learn more about themselves and each other and experience success in a supportive and creative environment.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, what constitutes success according to Accessible Arts? standards?
Sometimes it could be as specific as reaching an IEP goal, an individual education plan goal within the schools. But what constitutes success for accessible arts is that the student is able to, at their own ability, experience success in each one of those areas. And that might take a day, it might take a week, it might take a month, it might even take the entire school year. But we've also worked with students for 2 and 3 years. So it's them reaching their level of success in their experience. And you have to realize that we work with students of multiple abilities.
Right.
Blind and visual impaired, paralysis, cerebral palsy. So it's them experiencing their success at their own level of ability.
Sure.
And a lot of times we like to, well, most of the time, or I could say all the time, we like to have them create their own level of success. What would be success for you?
Right.
So,
and that's a part of the education that the employees,
yes,
being able to identify what their level is.
Yes, and we create student portfolios on each of the students. So we are documenting how they are progressing through each one of the progress, through pictures, through comments, through statements of the students themselves. So we're able to see how they're progressing, and whether that's in specific skills or if it's behavior. Maybe they're very quiet at the beginning of the class, and maybe they are now more social at the end, or maybe it's learning a specific skill, maybe patterning in.
And so it's about being able to see progress, not just about the end result, the work.
It is. It's process over product, and it's also very individualized to the students. Again, very much to their ability for the success. It's not. There might be a project that we're working on, but again, each student might be, again, not talking at the beginning of the class, and by the end, they will explain their work, as opposed to it's all about the paint process. It might be, I don't want to talk about it at the end of the class, they want to explain it. While another student really took on the process of the strokes. So it's different for each kid, for each project. So that's very much the definition of success.
And the programs, do they only, are they only in the schools, or do they go to recreational centers? I mean,
very much so. We work in community centers. We work, again, out in the community. That's very much a part of, again, the public awareness and the cultural access that we want to do. We like to go into community centers and see if they're not working with people with disabilities. We want to say, how can we make this space more accessible? And so we can provide programs
so it's
there
helping other community organizations convert their facility.
And their programs, because they might have an arts program, but maybe they don't have the adaptations and the strategies or the materials to make it accessible. So that's part public awareness, programming, and cultural access, because maybe we can provide adaptive paintbrushes or help them with just saying maybe your tables need to be at a different height, or providing large print materials so that more people are able to read that.
And how long does each program last?
That varies on the type of programming, maybe how long we have an artist in residency. And it can also depend on the funding, how long we have funding for.
And can an organization request to have you come in, or are you just targeting places that need your assistance?
No, we're always looking for organizations, community organizations, schools that want to make their programs accessible or want an artist in residency. And there's always options for different activities that can come in.
Fabulous. And you use the words cultural access.
Yes.
What exactly do you mean? Do you mean just making the locations themselves accessible? And does that include like wheelchair ramps if necessary, or is it and the personnel? I mean, what does cultural
access does be helping a site become more accessible. Back in future years, there was more funds to help with that. Right now, we could give hints and helpful strategies on how to make a situation more accessible. We can go in and help staff with train them on how to use people first language, how to have their programs become more universally designed, which is from start to finish, how do you include people with disabilities, including program planning. We go in and talk about maybe if you're having a performance, bringing in ASL interpreters for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, bringing in audio description for people who are blind or visually impaired, using large print programming, things that they could put on their website that would invite the disability community into their performances.
To be involved.
Maybe providing a tour for children with disabilities so they can get used to the set, maybe feel costumes, meet the actors so that they can feel more involved.
Yes.
Anything that, again, invites the disability community in and makes them feel more welcome into the space.
Inclusivity and access. Beautiful. Exactly. And so let's go ahead and focus on some of the programs themselves.
Great.
Groovability?
Groovability, fantastic program. Groovability is wheelchair ballroom dancing.
Wow.
Yes.
And where does that take place?
Well, they travel around and do a lot of demonstrations. They also go to competitions and do extremely well. Right now they're doing lessons at 68 Inside Sports, which is off 87th and Neiman.
Okay.
And they have lessons several nights a week. Groovability is not only doing wheelchair ballroom dancing now, but the executive director is trying to expand. She's recently become an instructor in Zumba.
Really?
Yes.
And so she's going to have a Zumba class?
Yes,
for
Zumba class.
Disabled community?
Yes, disabled. It's also inclusive. So the classrooms, wheelchair ballroom dancing is also inclusive because they have an able-bodied instructor that can teach all 4 roles, male, female, able-bodied, male, female wheelchair roles. And so it's also an inclusive classroom. So we can teach able-bodied partners and wheelchair partners at the same time. And now they can also do Zumba for able-bodied and people with disabilities, and also people who are using wheelchairs. So it is fantastic. We have it on our website. You have snippets of that, so you can see her in competition and dancing. They actually went last year to Chicago to audition for America's Got Talent. It's incredible. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Yes, and we can find information about them on Accessible Arts website.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
And then you also have Epic Clay Studio.
The Epic Clay Studio, we've just recently in downtown Kansas City, Kansas at 609 North 6th Street. And that is, again, open to the entire community. It's an inclusive program. It's just a way for people to get their hands dirty and learn how to use clay. We have found that, again,
and when you say how to use clay, they're molding clay, they're
molding,
firing clay.
We fire, we mold, we have wheels, and we have trained artist educators down there specifically who know how to use clay. And again, it's all inclusive.
Okay.
All ages. I think we've had people down there from 4 to 84 so far.
So these programs are not just for children; they're for adults as well.
Yep.
Okay, I'm like falling in love over here.
Yes, we're pretty dynamic in what we're trying to do.
Okay,
yes.
And you have Start with the Arts.
Start with the Arts is a pre-K early education program, and right now we are working, and that covers all national early education standards. So that's very important because when you're working in the school systems, they always want to make sure you're covering the standards.
Of course.
And that has curriculums in there from dance, theater, visual, and music. And right now we're working with Kansas City, Kansas Parents as Teachers, an early education site, and several of the USD 500 schools.
And let's keep moving.
Yep,
we have Beyond the Book.
Beyond the Book is a quilting program. We take literacy programs and make quilt. We are working with a very famous quilter, Marla Jackson. She actually has a permanent quilt hanging in the Smithsonian.
Wow.
So we are working with Accessible Arts Works with very...
You guys are serious.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you are affiliated with the Downtown Olathe Arts Festival.
Yes, I started working on their committee last year, and what's so dynamic about the Downtown Olathe Arts Festival is that they are very supportive of the disability community. They really want to highlight artists with disabilities. And last year they...
And you said last year was the first time?
Last year was the very first time, and they are very much wanting to continue to support the disability community and upcoming artists and seasoned artists. So very much look onto their website to, if you're an artist.
Is the festival upcoming?
Yes, it is. It's going to be in June this year.
It's going to be in June.
So you can already go onto the website.
And you will have a presence
yes.
at the festival?
Yes.
Okay. And can we find information on your website, or do we need to go to their
Downtown
website?
Lonita Art Festival right now, I don't think I have a link on there yet.
Okay.
But I will soon.
Okay, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about the Dream Series.
The Dream Series was from an artist who was on the Kansas State School for the Blind, and he was such a dynamic artist, and his series is online. He had an art gallery opening last year, and he had everything from clay to visual arts that he used wiki sticks, and he lost his sight later in life, so he had a very much of a perception of color and depth. And please go to our website to see that. He is just a dynamic young man, and created his own music for the art gallery as well.
Wow. Okay, so how was he able to accomplish that?
Well, his Dream Series was something that he saw all in his dreams. He had a very specific trademark that he called it, of himself writing on the back of these creatures that he made. And again, sometimes the students work very much like people who don't have disabilities, but he, again, very much driven, and just with some direction from some of the artists who worked with some adaptations and strategies, he just went to town.
And I did. I looked at the website, and his work is just sensational.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And we will be wrapping it up soon, but I wanted to ask you, what are the obstacles that Accessible Arts face?
Volunteer artists. We're always looking for volunteer artists because we know they're out there. And we would always like to have them come work with the students, because the students benefit from the social interaction that they get from working with those diverse
and as
artists.
volunteers, we can be educated.
Very much so.
How to interact.
Very much so. We're always trying to work on marketing the organization again, so we could get out there and to get the students' work out there and let people know that these students and these children and young adults with disabilities are artists, and their abilities are strong, and there's talent, and there's things that they are gaining from the arts. So we really want to get that out there.
What can we do as a community?
Support the children, support young adults with disabilities, and support them through the arts. Let them know that there are art programs out there, because they are reaching success and achieving goals.
Is there one thing that we could do that would have a huge impact on the organization?
A huge impact on the organization. Again, go to our website, find out about our activities that are going on in the community.
And what is your website?
www.accessible.org. AccessibleArts. Wow.
.org.
Yeah,
okay.
I get all excited about talking. But go to our website, accessiblearts.org, and find out about the activities, where the kids are going. Go to those, support the children. Make donations to those programs that you find are interesting and exciting, and where you found that the children, your own children, are being successful, and support those. Come volunteer if you're an artist, and those are going to be pretty much avoiding our obstacles, and those will be helping us break down those barriers and really help us continue our success.
And we will be looking for you guys to come support Accessible Arts.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, and Emily, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so
and
much.
And an honor. Thank you.
you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.